shake the whole planet. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. Who are we, Hebrew planet? The bruise waking up, they can't stand it. Hit one more time, more damage. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. Who are we, Hebrew planet? Let the thing sink, Titanic. Hit one more time, more damage. Open up the book, read the canons. Find us right there, transatlantic. The bruise waking up, they can't stand it. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. Who are we, Hebrew planet? About to take over the whole planet. Last one standing is Hebrew planet. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. The last one standing is Hebrew planet. The bruise waking up, they can't stand it. Just open up the planets, Hebrew planet.
Yeah, take over, the breakover. This world got no swag, need a makeover. One way trip to hell, no layovers. They all drink from the cup, got a hangover. Yeah, yes, they lied, the truth won't hide. Our people lack knowledge, so they broke inside. Some really, the ops, they the other side. I pray the spirit got you and open up your eyes. We the witnesses, open your book and take a look. Yeah, them curses was really a sign, just take a look and listen. How they treat us, throw us in prison. Women, children go missing, our sons cry for attention. Swift incision in the back of the neck of boy and the young. Are we really this dumb or are we really the ones in the book? Just open it up and give it a look. The Almighty ain't forsake us, it's him we forsook. We them zombies from the valley of bones. Y'all better lock up your homes, about to destroy all of your thrones. Bet they can't believe it. Yeah, we bet. We all over the news, give them heart attacks. Hit them one more time, they ain't coming back. Somebody go tell them, yeah, the bruises back. Let the thing shake, Titanic. Hit one more time, more damage. Open up the book, read the canons. Find us right there, transatlantic. The bruise waking up, they can't stand it. All over the planet, it's Hebrew planet. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. Yeah, who are we, Hebrew planet? Yeah, who are we, Hebrew planet? Yeah, who are we?
Shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining us live for Kingdom Magazine News. I am your correspondent, Deja Yisrael. And tonight we're going to get into it. A lot has been going on in the news. October was just full of a lot of concerning allegations regarding Ye and now just recently Brooklyn Nets basketball player Kyrie Irving. A lot has been happening. A lot of people have questions. You know, we're going to get into that tonight. What is anti-Semitism? What is a Semite person? How can you be anti-Semitic? These are all the things we're going to uncover. So tonight, before we get into it, let's hear this word from our sponsor.
Have you been suffering with depression and irritability? Have you been losing sleep, tossing and turning, and feeling restless during the day? Do you feel anger and hostility as a reaction to seeing people not wearing masks? Learning a person is not vaccinated. Learning someone will not be voting. Hearing people are agreeing with Ye's alleged anti-Semitic remarks? Do you feel peace and comfort in knowing LGBT rights are enforced? Abortion rights are enforced? But cringe at the idea of legislative change and reparations for the people of the transatlantic slave trade? You may be suffering from Stockholm Syndrome.
Yahuwah can help. Yah can be taken scripturally by young children and adults, with or without food, once or multiple times a day. You cannot overdose on Yah. Serious side effects might be peace, joy, long-suffering, having your sanity questioned, family and friends turning against you, being negatively labeled by the world, finding salvation from the world. Contact someone about Yah, the number one prescribed for Stockholm Syndrome. Thank you for that word from our sponsor. So tonight we're going to ask the question, is there evidence that Kyrie and Ye were right? Too much has been happening in the media. We're just going to get into the facts of what's going on. So first, you all have seen by this point all of the news with Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, his thoughts on anti-Semitism, his thoughts on the Jews running the media, his thoughts about white lives mattering, his friendship with Candace Owens. But what does this all mean for us? And what's the point of it all? Does it even matter? Is this something we even need to be talking about? As you see on the screen, the situation at hand, the t-shirt that he wore with Candace Owens, White Lives Matter. This disturbed a lot in the Black community. A lot of white people were confused. A lot of people were highly offended. Why would a Black man who understands what oppression is, to some degree, be wearing a White Lives Matter t-shirt with a far-right conservative extremist? It just didn't make sense. In addition to that, his tweet about going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people was also highly disturbing. Twitter took to it, very upset. He got on Instagram to also share some of his concerns, and he was banned from Instagram for a time. So a lot of people were really bothered about this. Meta did not approve of this messaging, not one bit. Why would Ye be saying these things? I mean, surely he wouldn't talk about using a war tactic on those who have suffered the Holocaust. We really want to find out what all of this is about. So just when you thought things couldn't get any worse with Ye, Adidas dropped him, JP Morgan Chase Bank dropped him, Balenciaga dropped him, Vogue dropped him. He lost a lot of money. He was the first Black, not the first Black, he was one of the most well-known Black billionaires. No, maybe the first Black one, but not anymore. His fortune has plummeted. And, it's not looking that good for him as far as business is concerned. All because of remarks about Black people being Jewish, or being the true Israelites of the Bible, rather, instead of Jewish. So we're going to dive into that. Is what he's saying even true? So then Brooklyn Nets basketball player Kyrie Irving also took to Twitter to share some things. But what he shared wasn't really that concerning. He shared a link to Hebrews to Negroes documentary. And, to some degree, why would he be in trouble for doing that? All he did was share a link to a movie. Why would that disturb everybody so deeply? That's the part that just isn't adding up for the people. What was so bothersome about this book? Well, reports are saying that this book was venomously anti-Semitic, that it was spreading disinformation about Jewish people and the Holocaust, and spreading lies about extremist group Black Hebrew Israelites. So we're going to dive into that as well. Since then, he has deleted the tweet, but he still has received so much backlash for it, even to the point that Brooklyn Nets owner shared on Twitter, "I'm disappointed that Kyrie appears to support a film based on a book full of anti-Semitic disinformation. I want to sit down and make sure he understands this is hurtful to all of us. And as a man of faith, it is wrong to promote hate based on race, ethnicity, or religion." So, of course, he was asked to apologize many times, to where at first he didn't offer an apology. Take a look at this.
Kyrie, for the record, do you have any anti-Semitic beliefs?
Again, I'm going to repeat. I don't know how the label becomes justified because you guys ask me the same questions over and over again. But this is not going to turn into a spin around cycle of questions upon questions. I told you guys how I felt. I respect all walks of life and embrace all walks of life. That's where I sit.
I think what people want to hear, though, is just a yes or no on that question. Yes or no.
I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from. I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from.
Kyrie, did you personally meet with the AGL?
So as you see from that right there, he said, "I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from." But where do you come from, Kyrie? I think that's the question everybody's asking. Because if you're saying that you cannot be anti-Semitic, wouldn't that mean that you are, in fact, a Semite? Maybe that's what he's getting at. So continuing on with him, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaq, LeBron James, Charles Barkley, all had some very strong opinions about what Kyrie said. Of course, once he issued his apology, that still was not good enough. He's been given a laundry list of things he must complete in order to be taken off of suspension from the Brooklyn Nets. It's 6 requirements that he must repeat. 1, apologize and condemn the Hebrews to Negroes documentary and book series. 2, make a $500,000 donation to anti-hate causes spearheaded by the Anti-Defamation League. 3, complete sensitivity training. 4, complete anti-Semitism training. 5, meet with the Anti-Defamation League and Jewish leaders. And 6, meet with Brooklyn Nets owner Joe Tsai to demonstrate understanding. Now, if that wasn't enough, Nike announced on November 4th that they are cutting ties with Irving and they will not be launching the Kyrie 8 shoe. So similar to Ye, it seems like everything is falling apart just from one small sharing of a link of a documentary that's been on Amazon since it came out. But let's hear what past teammates, as well as some other NBA alums, have to say about how they feel. First, we'll take a look at LeBron James. He wasn't too happy about what was said.
Any hate to any kind, to any race, to Jewish communities, to Black communities, to Asian communities. You guys know where I stand, and it's part of the reason why I didn't air the shop episode, why we kicked that, out of the archives, because there was hate conversation going on there, and I don't represent that. There's no place in this world for it. Nobody can benefit from that, and I believe what Kyrie did caused some harm to a lot of people, and he has since over the last, I think, was it yesterday? He apologized. He caused some harm, and I think it's unfortunate, but I don't stand on the position to harm people when it comes to their voice and their platform or anything. And so it doesn't matter what color your skin is, how tall you are, what position you are in. If you are promoting or soliciting or saying harmful things to any community that harm people, then I don't respect it.
So we hear from LeBron. He said he's not with any of that. Spoke very strongly about that as well. But I would like to pull up this other source I have here, just discussing, how strongly he feels about it. But I do have a question for LeBron. Is this something that harms our community? I find that this could harm our community. Showing our strong Black men wearing dresses doesn't seem to be an image that is too positive to promote, but that could be a stretch. So now we're going to hear from Charles Barkley, who also had some strong things to say about what Kyrie did. And I just would like to remind the viewers, all that Kyrie did was share a link to a movie. But this is still something that just isn't. The knowledge is just not encouraged. So take a look at this.
I think the NBA dropped the ball.
In what way?
I think he should have been suspended. I think Adam should have suspended him. First of all, Adam's Jewish. You can't take my $40 million and insult my religion. You're going to insult me. You have the right, but I have the right to say, no, you're not going to take my $40 million and insult my religion. I think the NBA, they made a mistake. We have suspended people and fined people who have made homophobic slurs. And that was the right thing to do. I think if you insult the Black community, you should be suspended or fined heavily, depending. I saw they did the same thing to the kid in Minnesota this year when he made the gay slur. I think you should get suspended or fined. I think him acknowledging the Alex Jones things should have happened with that too, because that dude's crazy. And I can't believe that we ain't talking about that. We're talking about this idiot. And when you say, if I say, hey, I'm agreeing with this movie, this book, or whatever, I'm agreeing with it. I'm not going to put, first of all, I don't do any social media, but when you're somebody as great as basketball like him, people going to listen to you, what you say. And there's some fringe people out there, but like I say, I blame the NBA. He should have been suspended.
And their conversations are continuing with the Brooklyn Nets,
It's too
with
late
the NBA,
now.
but they're also looking at at how do we move forward at this so we don't
too
go
late
through
now.
this again. No, it's not too late to say
Ernie,
how do we prevent this. It's not too late to do it. I see what you're saying.
I want to say that the reason it's too late, the NBA is giving in to peer pressure. If one of our players do something, they have the right, the team or the league has to do something immediately. If you just give in to peer pressure, that's the problem I have. This should have been handled already.
Kenny, let's.
So we hear how Charles Barkley feels about the situation, that Kyrie shouldn't have given in to peer pressure. But now I have to pose this question as well, since the topic of peer pressure is on the table. I would like the audience to answer for me. Is what I'm about to show on the screen an example of peer pressure? Was the ad money or sponsorship money worth this level of humiliation? Or this type of peer pressure isn't the same as sharing knowledge about a people group? I suppose not. So we can move past that. And lastly, we're going to hear from Shaquille O'Neal, how he feels about the whole situation and how he was also very disgusted at the display of Kyrie sharing this Hebrews to Negroes link and not giving the apology that everyone felt was warranted for what he did. Take a look at this.
Something out there, Shaq, that does not represent something that you feel?
I was probably one of the first guys on Twitter. And when I realized the power it had, I knew I had to be very responsible. Followers, platform, whatever you call it, I knew I had to be responsible. I try to make people happy. I try to make people smile. My formula has always been the same: 60% to make you laugh, 30% to inspire you, and 10% whatever I'm selling. You have to be aware of what you're doing. And you have to be aware that sometimes when you put stuff out, not everybody's going to like it. Some people are conscious, some people are not. I could tell he's not conscious. He doesn't really care what's going on. But us, I know that the game that we used to love and we promote, it brings people together. And it hurts me sometimes when we have to sit up here to talk about stuff that divides the game. Now we got to answer for what this idiot has done. I stand for equality of all people. I've always been like that. Don't matter what religion, no matter where you're from. I could say shalom, salam alaikum, ni hao, say bon, because that's how I was raised. So I don't really want to sit up here and answer questions for what he's done. If you're looking at me, it's my job to make people happy. I can't speak for him and, answer for what he's doing. It's obviously by his answers and the way he answers, he doesn't really care.
So that was also a very interesting remark from Shaq, saying that there's a
In what way?
lack of consciousness. He's not all the way there. He didn't think it through. So my last question for Shaq: is this conscious? Was Shaq aware of what he was doing with this? I don't know. Is this conscious? For the viewers watching, is this a conscious display of manhood? I'm not sure. But not all of the remarks have been as disturbing as these. Some have expressed their support, including Floyd Mayweather and Nick Cannon. Let's hear what Nick Cannon had to say about this entire situation and how he's showing his support for Kyrie.
I can hardly say I know Kyrie Irving is not anti-Semitic.
When given the chance to say, "Are you anti-Semitic?" or not, he didn't say, "No, I'm not anti-Semitic." At the press conference, tell us about that movie. Why did he said, "Stop dehumanizing me"? And the movie is saying white Jews invented the Holocaust and 6 million Jews didn't get killed. Okay, I know that isn't right. Right. There's a gigantic historical record. Jewish people know when you dehumanize us this way, we know what's around the corner.
So in that same statement as those are the tropes that dehumanize Jewish people, the same buck breaking.
What's that? I don't really know what that means, to be perfectly honest.
The slave masters would bring the buck, the one that gets out of line. So all the other slaves would see lash after lash, showed them the power to set an example. This is what you must do to fall in line. So when we see the 6 things that Kyrie must do to get his job back, right, that's dehumanizing.
So we see Nick Cannon's comments on this. Is it true that what Kyrie has to do to right his wrong? Is this modern day buck breaking that we're witnessing? These are the questions we're going to ask. And for these questions, I'd like to bring on our special guest, Elder Shemaiah, Chairman and Minister of Information for the United Nation of Yisrael, to join us so we can discuss these questions more in depth and ask some more that have to do with this situation. So, Elder Shemaiah, I'd love for you to welcome me on the stage.
It's a pleasure and an honor to always speak to our people. And we are living in an unprecedented time where we are being attacked. I know that to the contrary, the Jewish community, the Semitic community are saying that they are under attack by our people. They're saying that we are being racist against them for statements that we make. Well, we have to really unravel and peel back the onion so that we understand what's going on. First and foremost, know where we call ourselves African American, Black, whether we understand that we're Israel, Hebrew Israelites, Shemitic people. Nobody of our culture, of our people, of our nationality, of our physical lineage in this country can ever be racist. When you go look up the definition of racist, that means that you can hold back or pull back somebody else based upon a preference that you don't like about them. So just to really make it really, really clear, what are we seeing when we see how Kanye went from being a billionaire to having about $4 million of his net value, his liquidity? Who pushed the button on that? What do we see when we see Kyrie Irving have to pay $500,000? What do we see when he's subjected to them even contemplating trading him? Who is the one that's being racist?
So I think we have to ask as well, what is Semitism and how can one be anti-Semitic? Since these are the claims that are being raised, I think it's important for our viewers to understand what these terms mean, where they come from, who they're directed to, and just know the history behind it, because it's being thrown around so loosely. I think it's important that we understand where it comes from.
You're absolutely right. When we go into the quagmire of a questioning whether or not we're anti-Semitic, first we got to know, in order to be anti anything, you have to know what you're anti against. We have to know the definition of Semitism or being Semitic. Those are the questions that we have to ask. But we know that from the actual definition to how the media has defined, or how a certain group of people have defined being anti-Semitic, they're two different animals. And here's what I mean. if you ask yourself the question and you hear somebody typecast as being anti-Semitic, your first mind goes to that these people hate the Jewish community. So let's deal with that. What is Semitic and what is Semitism? And I'm going to be real quick, but I got to read a definition. Semitism or Semitic is relating to or denoting a family of language that includes Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, and certain ancient languages such as Phoenician and Akkadian, constituting the main subgroup of the Afro-Asiatic family. So, as we look at that, have you ever heard anybody being typecast as being anti-Semitic because they don't like somebody that speaks Arabic? You never heard that.
The only time we've heard anti-Semitic is when someone is making jokes about Jewish people, or if somebody is being offensive in regards to the Holocaust or Nazis or things of that nature. It's never been based upon the language that somebody speaks.
Absolutely. So that takes us to another definition. What is Jew or Jewish? And I'll read that real quick. Jew or Jewish is relating to, associated with, or denoting Jewish people or Judaism. The Jewish people, of relating to a characteristic of a Jew. Jews or Jewish people are an ethno-religious group and nation originating from Israelites and Hebrews of the historic Israel Yehuda. So it says that they are an ethno-religious group. And for those that don't know, I have to go further in these definitions because we are really uncovering the onion today. What is an ethno-religious group? And these things, family, you can all research yourself. An ethno-religious group is a group of people who are unified by a common religious and ethnic background. Now, we got to understand ethnicity. Ethnicity does not automatically, all the time, 100% of the time, relate to nationality. Ethnicity can be developed. Ethnicity can be created. For example, we are typecast as being African American. Believe it or not, it's a certain ethnicity to being African American. And when we look at the Jewish people today, they have an ethnic culture that they have developed. You see them wear beanies. You see them wear all black. You see them wearing these big brim black hats. You see them at the Wailing Wall. But they also have pulled some Hebraic culture into their ethnic construct. They have pulled in also the menorah. They have pulled in certain aspects of the Torah. And when they pull these things in and they combine it with the social constructs that they have developed, they have now developed a Jewish ethnicity, a Jewish identity. Well, unbeknownst to our people, and contrary to popular belief, is that the same as being an Israelite according to being descendants of Shem? Shem being the oldest son of Noah, going down to Abraham or Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov being renamed to be Israel, and having 12 sons, and those 12 sons being the 12 tribes of Israel. They pulled from that family. And
being that this is a bloodline versus religious decision conversation, who are the real victims here? I think it's important that we dispel the myth and uncover who the real victims are if what we're dealing with is bloodline versus religious choice.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. So who has been the real victim over time? You know, the victim that has experienced all kind of turmoil in every aspect, in every facet of our system, whether it be educational, whether it be political, whether it be financial, it has been our people. And we don't control anything. But now, all of a sudden, we have been made the victim. And, you know, there's a video, I don't know if it's a lot of, you know, some of us that grew up in a certain era, but we had that movie Roots. Roots was a movie about our people going on the plantation. And there's and we want to have you watch this video right quick.
Again! I want to hear you say your name. Your name is Toby. What's your name? Gunther.
Lord God help that boy. They're gonna whip him dead.
What's your name? Say it! Toby! Who are you? Say your name. What's your name?
Toby.
Wow.
So, wow. You know, I grew up
tough
during
to watch.
Tough to watch. I grew up during a time when we had to read that book in school. We had to watch the movie. We saw the play that Alex Haley wrote, and it's called Roots. And so what we have to do now is understand that the same visualization that they had about 45 years ago when this series came out is the same thing we're seeing in our face today. I want you to see and visualize that the brother by the name of Kunta Kinte hanging up is the same as the Kanye, the Kyrie, the Nick Cannon, and the Whoopi Goldberg all wrapped in one. They hanging on that rope. And if you notice, you see the one that is whirling the whip is somebody that look just like them. I want you to visualize that being the Charles Barkleys, the LeBron James, the Shaquille O'Neals, and everybody else that are speaking against our people. And they're operating based upon the dictates of the white slave master, which is the one that's upset because they're mad because Kanye, Kyrie, Nick, and Whoopi came out to say something about their truth. And their truth is the same thing as saying that they're Kunta Kinte. And they're going to whoop them into submission until they say that their name is Toby. That's why they're making Kyrie pay $500,000. That's why Kanye West is now dropped down to being worth over $11 billion to now having liquidity of $4 million. That's why Whoopi Goldberg had to apologize to get back on The View. That's why Nick Cannon had to apologize to get his career back. Do we not see what's happening? And we're standing in the background today, just as our brother was standing in the back saying they gonna kill him. And I seen all the comments on Facebook saying the same thing. Why would you say that? They're gonna kill him. We're sitting back looking at this thing. My question to you, family, how long are we gonna sit back? How long are we gonna look at? And how long are we going to repeat the same thing, expecting different results? The challenge is on you. Our brothers that came forward, you may not like everything they said. You may not agree with everything they said, But nonetheless, they're standing on our truth and understanding who they are, and they're being persecuted for it.
So this is so much information, and we've uncovered so much. It was tough to watch that video, and it was tough to come to terms and realizations that what has occurred in recent news, the same punishments are being inflicted today, although may not be physically, financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. These attacks have been the same. And we see this list right here of all the brands and companies that have dropped Yay: Adidas, Balenciaga, Creative Artist Agency, Cohen Claire, Foot Locker, Gap, JP Morgan Chase, MRC, United Talent Agency, and collectors of Yeezy. They've all just dispelled, and they don't want anything to do. Actually, his Donda Academy had to be shut down because parents were complaining. So I think another question that we need to ask is, should we be supporting Ye and Kyrie? What we're seeing is modern day lynching, modern day buck breaking. Should we be supporting them, and how can we support them?
Absolutely. That's a good question. And I want to direct the viewers to look at certain aspects of things in their daily life today. Do you see Asian people going against other Asian people? Do you see Arabic people going against other Arabic people, no matter what the belief structure is? Do you see that? No, you don't. Why not? Because there's a certain value system that they have about not only their ethnic identity, but their nationality. We have been stripped of our nationality. Our nationality has been equated to being African American, which is a misnomer, which is a social construct that we have come forward to accept. We have to come now and start to investigate who we actually are. So on top of the question, whether or not we should support Kanye, whether we should support Kyrie, that's like asking the question, should you stand by your brother and sister? Now, they didn't rob a bank. They didn't kill anybody. What did they do? They spoke their truth. Is that something that our people should be against our people for? So my answer to that question is we should support them 110%. How do we support them? Simply as this. If you don't have a connection with anybody, go to www.yahwehgather.us and join the movement. Join your people. The fight against anti-Shemitism, not Semitism, but Shemitism, because we are a Shemitic people.
Yeah, we must stand against anti-Shemitism. The 400 years are over, and freedom is at hand. And as you see on the website, the United Nation of Yisrael had a national and tribal flag raising at Unlimited Potential Farms this past September. And what this signified and stood for was a nation coming forth, declaring their identity, declaring their nationality and heritage, and being proud and confident at that. Sadly, not all of our brothers and sisters have that. What's the word I'm looking for?
Tenacity,
or have that opportunity to come forth without being punished for it. We see Ye coming forth about who we are. He was punished immediately. Kyrie Irving coming forward about who we are. He was punished immediately. Whoopi Goldberg speaking out, saying that the Holocaust was not about race. Punished immediately. Nick Cannon coming out, saying that Black people are indeed the true Hebrews. Punished immediately. Ice Cube posting pictures and memes saying that all we have to do is stand up from up under this monopoly board that they have us under. He was ridiculed for that. So many others have been ridiculed for this and have been given the label of anti-Semitic. Although, as we see from scripture and historically, based on the transatlantic slave trade, that the Black people are indeed the true Shemitic people. So the question we were asking tonight is, are Ye and Kyrie right? And if so, where's the proof? And that answer can be further given after we hear from our sponsor one last time, and Elder Shemaiah will be back to continue this segment with his special report answering the question, where's the proof?
Sleep, tossing and turning, and feeling restless during the day? Do you feel anger and hostility as a reaction to seeing people not wearing masks? Learning a person is not vaccinated. Learning someone will not be voting. Hearing people are agreeing with Ye's alleged anti-Semitic remarks? Do you feel peace and comfort in knowing LGBT rights are enforced? Abortion rights are enforced? But cringe at the idea of legislative change and reparations for the people of the transatlantic slave trade? You may be suffering from Stockholm Syndrome.
Yahuwah can help. Yah can be taken scripturally by young children and adults, with or without food, once or multiple times a day. You cannot overdose on Yah. Serious side effects might be peace, joy, long-suffering, having your sanity questioned, family and friends turning against you, being negatively labeled by the world, finding salvation from the world. Contact someone about Yah, the number one prescribed for Stockholm Syndrome.
Hallelujah, all praise. And family, welcome again to our special edition, our special show. It's about the awakening of the Shemites. Stop the buck breaking. If we don't do something, if we don't say anything, it's going to continue. We need to take ownership. Our family, years and years ago, under the civil rights movement, we would stand, we boycotted, we marched. Now we know some of those things like marching and going to protest are things that our enemy creates to keep us within a box, to keep so that we can have a voice, but really the change is minimal. The only time the change really takes effect is when we either hit their pocketbooks or some sort of act of war. Well, family, let's make no mistake. We have been at war for a long time, and we're still at war today. Look at what you see. You see Kanye, you see Kyrie in the media, and they're being slandered. Their livelihood is being taken away from them for what is supposed to be categorized as freedom of speech. That goes right into some other things that I want to discuss. When we talk about the Holocaust or the Jewish era in Germany and when that occurred, yes, we all are sympathetic to anybody losing lives and anything happening to anybody. So we want to make sure that we get that disclaimer. That's anybody. I don't care who it is. If somebody's wrong, they're wrong. But let's go look at some real truths. Let's look at what really occurred in Germany. The question that I have for the viewer is, why did Hitler declare his acts against the Ashkenazi Jewish people in Germany? What was going on in Germany that caused that to be something to be brought about through the form of government? Did the Ashkenazi have their hands in governmental influence? Were they controlling commerce? Did they have the German commerce on lockdown? Go do your research and see what was really going on financially. And once you do that, then you'll understand why Hitler when he first came in power, his first words to the German people were, "All debts are paid." Do you know why he said that? That's because they had the commerce in Germany on lockdown. They were controlling it through private interests. Doesn't that sound similar today? Now, Kyrie, Kanye, Whippy, Nick Cannon, they said everything they said, but they could not be charged with a crime because you do have freedom of speech. But what they didn't tell you is that private industry can control your livelihood. So it's like a double whammy. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So if the powers that be, the unseen hand, in politics, they don't say anything because don't make any mistakes. The same people that control the music industry, the media, also control the government. I know that there have been people coming out trying to be sarcastic and saying that are Jewish in ethnicity, saying, "Oh yeah, we control everything. Yes, we are the Illuminati. Yes, we did this and did that." You know, listen, don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. You know, it's all an illusion. Pay attention to what's before your eyes that you see. Look at what families are controlling everything. Go back in history. In the transatlantic slave trade, who was it that purchased the slaves from the Gold Coast? Was it not the Portuguese? Who are the Portuguese? Portuguese came from Spain. Now, how do we connect that today? Who is the Sephardic Jew? And let me back up a little bit. There are three classifications of Jewish people today. There are the Sephardic Jew, the Ashkenazi Jew, and the Khazarian Jew, or also known as the Karaite Jews. Those are the three, I would say, mainstream parts of the Jewish culture or Jewish religion or Jewish social construct today. Okay. Now, let me give another disclaimer. Today, we're not here to truly 100% identify with and give information about our people. We will do that, but we want to really unravel what we're seeing today before we get into that. Now, I will touch on some of the things about who our people are, but we really want to deal with the elephant in the room because we have been labeled as anti-Semitic. And when I say we need to embrace that Kyrie and Kanye are our people. We need to stop dividing ourselves because the tactic in war is divide and conquer. And we fall for it every time. It's time for us to unite. It's time for us to stand for something or we'll fall for any and everything. So let us continue with that. Let us continue with that. Wait. So with that being said, when we look at what one of the rappers said that we also hold ideals to, which is Tupac, he said, "A coward dies 1,000 deaths, but a soldier dies once." How many times have we been down this same vein? And we've been crucified in media. How many times? When is enough going to be enough? When are we going to have our brothers back? When are we going to be our brother's keeper? When are we going to stop asking the question, are we our brother's keeper? So let us get back to the Portuguese being the Sephardic Jew, or where the Sephardic Jews came from. And with that being said, they spoke a language called Ladoni, which is a Spanish dialect, but they use Hebraic lettering or denotations in certain aspects. But it is absolutely a Spanish dialect. Mind you, Christopher Columbus came from this same process. And so when we look at the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Sephardic Jew, they were the ones that had the slave ships. They were the ones that purchased the slaves from the Gold Coast, and they brought them over to what they call the New World. And the New World consisted of North, South, Central America, including all the Caribbean. And there is a actual slave plantation, a sugarcane plantation called Johanna Savannah in the Caribbean, which was outright owned by the Sephardic Jews. And that it was a big sugarcane plantation. At any given time, there was 1,000 slaves on that plantation. Also, when we dive in later on other shows, we will go into the actual family names of those that own the slave ships. And we also have information to the different corporations and companies today and of yesterday that they transcend into. So there were a few things that happened. The people that purchased the slaves from the Gold Coast also embedded their own people in this form of government that we call North America to keep slavery alive, to keep the money flowing. So look, let's not make any mistakes. So when we start looking at the Holocaust of our people through the transatlantic slave trade, how many millions of people died over 400 years did the slave trade continue? Just the slave trade alone was over 400 years by itself. How many people died? Now we have even some of our people today that question whether or not the slave trade existed. Well, we are in direct communication with our brothers and sisters on the continent of Africa, and we know full well that the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, occurred, and it happened, and our people were brought over here. There's a documentary on YouTube about the Yohimbi people that came through the slave trade, that were sold throughout the North, the South, and the Central America and the Caribbean. And they even have some Yohimbi communities inside South Carolina. They have them down in Venezuela. They have them in Trinidad and Tobago. They have them in Puerto Rico. They have them in several places. So I'm saying that to say, to put to bed, if you ever were confused whether or not the slave trade occurred, yes, it did occur. It did happen. The other thing is, ask yourself the question, when you open up your wallet and your purse and you see your last name and you got a European last name, how did you get that last name? Do you think you got that last name from the continent of Africa? I think not. You got that last name from the plantation that your ancestors was on. Well, as we go to our family reunions, embracing Jackson and Smith and Clark or whatever it may be, understand what you're embracing. Now, I know we embrace our people when we go there, but understand what the last name denotates. The last name is proof positive that you were owned by some slaveholders. So as we continue with the Sephardic transition and understanding the Sephardic Jew and what their role was in the export of the commodity of us being precious cargo from the Gold Coast of Africa and brought over here on those slave ships. They don't want you to believe that. Matter of fact, there's several of them that say there's no evidence that occurred. Well, if you do your research, if you do your study, if you stop just listening to what you're told in the media, whether it be social media or whether it be mainstream media, and start reading, you'll find that there's a lot of difference from what you hear on TV than what's actually written in books. Now let's go to the second classification of Jews. You have your Ashkenazi. Your Ashkenazi is a people that are more of a Slavic in ethnicity. If you're confused about Slavic, go pull up Slavic nation and you'll see where the Slavic nations come from. You'll see who they are. So the Ashkenaz, who lived in Germany at the time, they developed a language called Yiddish. And none of this information that I'm giving you is off the top of my head. Pull up Yiddish, and you'll see that it is a Germanic language. Now, who speaks a Germanic language but German people? Let's start paying attention to what we're told and pay attention to reality and what we read. Okay? But it's a German language with the infusion of Hebraic lettering. So let us pay attention to that and where it comes from. So the Ashkenaz, and if we go, actually, matter of fact, I want to have my brother go into Genesis chapter 10, and we want to look up Ashkenaz. We want to read a little bit in Genesis chapter 10, if we can get that on the screen, because I want to show you that this is not something that we are just speaking of. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 10, and I'm going to get there myself, and we are going to pick it up. And we'll start at verse 1, because we want to also look up the Shemitic people as well, because Shem was the oldest son of Noah. So Genesis chapter 10, verse 1 reads as follows. Now Shem, these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Midian, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, right? And Tyrus, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Rephath, and Targamal. I want to back up. Verse 3, it says the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Rephath, and Targamal. We should not be confused. The Ashkenaz is the Ashkenazi. So you cannot be, so this Ashkenazi has a physical descendant. They are physical descendants of Japheth. You can't be descendants of two different people. We're reading the descendants of Japheth, not Shem and not Ham. And it's telling you where the Ashkenaz come from. So when you see the Ashkenaz having whatever they call as far as Jewish culture being Semitic, those are things that pertain to them. And it has nothing to do with a Shemitic people. But I'm going to continue reading. And it says in verse 4, and the sons of Javan, and Elisha, and Tarshish, and Kittim, and Dodanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles, divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families and their nations. So all of these people we just mentioned are Gentiles. Contrary to popular belief, you know, we hear that if you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile. Well, first of all, what does that mean to be a Jew? What we're seeing right here is the same ones that are Gentiles are Jews. I'm not saying anything negative about it. I'm just calling an apple an apple. Verse 5. I'm sorry, verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush and Mizraim and Put and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba and Havilah and Sabat and Ramah and Saptaka. And the sons of Rimmah, Sheba and Dedan. And Cush begot Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was mighty, and he was a mighty hunter before the Almighty. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Almighty. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, and the land of Shanir. Out of the land went forth Ashur, who built Nineveh, and the city of Rabbah and Calah, and risen between Nibiah and Calah, the same is the great city. And Mizraim begot Ladun, and Anam, and Lehabim, and Naptuim, and Pathrasim, and Kashlum, out of whom came Philistim, and Captorim, and Canaan begot Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites, and the Girgashites, and the Hivites, and the Archites, and the Sinite, and the Arvadite, and the Zermite, and the Hamathite, and afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. And the border of Canaanites was from Sidon as thou comest to Gerar, and Gaza as thou goest into Sodom, and Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah, and Adamah, and Zedamin, even unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. Now we just got finished with Ham. Now we go into Shem. Now we read before where Ashkenaz came from. Now, make no mistake that the Sephardic Jew, being Spanish, is a Gentile nation. If you go unravel and you research those people that you read about being under Yafat, which are Gentiles, you will find Spanish people as well. But you won't find them under Ham, and we're going to see if you can find them under Shem. Verse 21, unto Shem, also the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Yafat, the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Aphax, and Lud, and Aram, and the children of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mash, and Arphat begot Salah, and Salah begot Eber, and unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Plague, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan, and Joktan begot Almad, and Shelef, and Hazamah, and Jerah, and Hadarian, and Uzal, and Diklah, and Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Jabal. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Mashah to as thou goest unto Sephar on Mount of the East. These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. So we see that each son was divided into their lineage, divided into particular people and particular nations. Yes, they were brothers, having the same mother. But as we see the delineation of the breakdown of their nations, we see that they developed into a different people. So we can't see where the Ashkenaz had lineage within Ham or within Shem. The Ashkenazi was of Japhet. That's a truth. That's nothing to be upset about. A Jewish person shouldn't be mad at me if I point out the fact that he's of Ashkenaz. Why would it be something offensive? It's not offensive. It's just telling the truth. So, and the reason why I'm saying that, there were many aspects in the book of Hebrews and Negroes that Ronald Dalton had actually wrote, and there's a movie that he did to coincide with it. And we of the United Nations of Israel did help him promote that book. Now, do we hold to the religious, doctrinal differences that they have in that book that actually coincides with some of the Christian development that we still hold on to as Hebrews? No, but we support our brothers. We support our family. We're there for them. And we all should learn how to do that, despite our differences. Don't let your difference with your brother be something that you allow them to be flogged and beat and brutalized in the media. Just like we saw Kunta Kinte being beat right in the middle of the rest of the slaves. He was being buck broken. And today, Kyrie and Kanye have been buck broken in the media. Now they still standing. We see also Nick Cannon and Whoopi Goldberg being buck broken. However you want to call it, being socially sodomized. And I say without Vaseline, and that's what's been happening. And we got to really understand and look at that and take the graphic image of what's being said today and realize that's what's happening to our people. Now, before I continue, there is a third aspect of this Jewish culture today, and that is the Khazarian or the Karaite. And so the Khazarians are those that come from Russia and the other Slavic nations over in that aspect of the world. And Khazaria, both Khazarians and Ashkenazis also are partly, for the most part, they're both descendants of the Ottoman and Byzantine empires. So if you go pull up the map of the Ottoman and Byzantine empires, you can see graphically what region they control. And we can see that in the Byzantine and Ottoman empires, we'll see that there was a land called Caucasian, and that's where the Caucasus, that's where the Caucasian come from. And so that was a particular white group of people. Not all white people are Caucasian, because they all don't come from that land. But there is a particular people that are from the Caucasus Mountain being Caucasian, and they come from that region. But if you look at the occupation of the Ottoman and Byzantine Empire, they fell within that empire. So again, family, this show is to get into diving into the definitions and understanding different things about these people today that are upset because Kyrie said to Black America, watch the movie and wake up. I asked the question to you, how is that being against somebody? Because Kyrie said, wake up Black America, go watch the movie. Where is his hate for Jewish people in that? So, and before I start reading these definitions, we need to understand that being a Semite, and I'm saying Semite spelled Semite, and being a Shemite, Shemite, are two different classifications of people. Now, just because they're two different classifications of people, does that make me hate Shemites because I made that distinction? No, that's a truth. So let's get in again. I'm gonna reiterate the definition of being Semitic as I did earlier today, or on the show earlier. Semitic or Semitism. So anytime somebody tell you that you anti-Semitic, anytime somebody labels somebody as being anti-Semitic, you got to first ask yourself, what is Semitic and what is Semitism? To make the connection whether or not that person is actually anti-Semitic. So I'm going to read that again, family. Semitic, relating to or denoting a family of language that includes Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, and certain ancient languages such as Phoenician and Akkadian, constituting the main subgroup of the Afro-Asiatic family. I asked the question earlier today. Have you ever heard of somebody being labeled as anti-Semitic because they had an issue with Arabic people? No. By definition, Semitic and Semitism has nothing to do with race, but it has everything to do with these five different languages that people speak. Did you see Kyrie? Did you see Kanye or Nick Cannon or Whoopi Goldberg say anything against people that speak Hebrew, speak Arabic, Aramaic, Phoenician, or Akkadian? Ask yourself that question. It deserves an answer, but ask yourself that question. And just so you know, so for Semitism, it says that in paleolinguistics, asemitism, I'm going to repeat that. In paleolinguistics, asemitism, ism is something. It's an adjective, it's not a verb, it's not a thing. It's an adjective. It says in paleolinguistics, asemitism, that's a kind of a ideal, is a grammatical, syntactical behavior in language which reveals that the influence of Semitic language is present. The most common example is the influence of Aramaic on some texts written in Jewish and Greek culture. So again, asemitism. So you can't even, when you say Semitism, and it's not even talking about a particular group of people. Asemitism is a grammatical or syntactical behavior. So if it's a behavior, can anybody have that kind of behavior? That's a question that you need to ask. Okay. So now let's get into when it says about it being a grammatical, syntactical behavior. That's a definition too. What is grammatical or syntactical behavior? So I'm going to give you some of the definition because there's a lot to read, but you can go pull this up yourself. It says here that there is no clear cross-linguistic definition of what a word is, and therefore no real distinction between syntax and metaphorology. Indeed, there are calls to unify the study of grammar into metaphoric text instead of using the traditional syntax distinction. Again, we're talking about how words are constructed in dealing with Semitism, right? Semitism. Then it says syntactical behavior, on the other hand, is typically related to syntactical pivots in clause and linkage, which participants serve to link different clauses together. Now, I'm gonna show you an example of a form of syntactical behavior, and grammatical syntactical behavior. And that is, they say Semitic or Semitism. I'm gonna deal with Semitic. In the Bible, there is no Sem. There is no Sem in Torah. There is no Sem in the Tanakh. It's only Shem. So the syntactical behavior, what occurred was they dropped the H off of Shem and said Sem and created a culture behind it, having the whole world acknowledge that this Semite is the culture that they developed, which has nothing to do with Shem, as we read in the scriptures earlier. So again, that's a behavior. It's a tactic that they utilize to cover up, I don't even, well, I could say cover up, but I don't want anybody, I don't care who's watching, but it's a way to construct or create what the illusion. Somebody in here said word magic. Absolutely true. Word magic, word smithing. That's what they did. So make no mistake, family, us as a people, we are not Semitic. We are not Jewish. We are not Black Jews. We are not Black Hebrew Israelites. There is no such adjective to being Israel attached to it as being Black. You're either Israelite or you're not. It just so happened that Israelites are a people of the Black nations. It's a people, an Israelite is a descendant of Isaac or Isaac, who was a descendant of Abraham or Abraham. And Abraham was the first one to be called Hebrew because he was a nomadic person who lived in the land of Eber. Some people say Ibri. I don't want to get caught up in word pronunciation tonight because oftentimes we make a molehill out of that. But let's understand what we're talking about. Okay? And then Abraham was a descendant of Shem. You don't see that he was a descendant of Sem. He was a descendant of Shem. Again, by me breaking this down, does that mean I hate anybody that call themselves Shemitic? Does that mean I hate anybody that call themselves a Jew? No. Now, what we can pull out is whether or not other people have hated us and have been anti-Shemitic. That's the bigger question. Who has been anti-Shemitic? Who has been anti-Israelite? Who has been anti the people that came from Isaac and Abraham? We can see that every day. So now, let's continue. Let's look at the definition of Jew and Jewish, because they relate to each other. It says Jew or Jewish, by definition, is relating to, associated with, or denoting Jewish people or Judaism. Again, ism. It displays a kind of character, like Semitism displays a character. It doesn't display a physical people. So it says Jews or Jewish people are an ethno-religious group and nation originating from Israelites and Hebrews. I'm going to stop right there before I continue reading. Jews and Jewish people is a ethno-religious group. Did it say a physical people? By it being an ethno-religious group, can anybody participate in being a Jew or Jewish? By definition, yeah. If you understand, and we're going to get to it later, ethnicity, there's two terms before that I want to really hone in on. Ethnicity and nationality. We got to know the difference. You can have a nationality, but you can function in many different ethnicities, right? But the ethnicity is dealing with your physical posterity, your physical lineage. Ethnicity is dealing with a culture that's developed. Now, that culture could be developed by any set of people. That's like Christians have a culture. Christians have an ethnicity. But do you have different kind of Christians and from different races of people? Absolutely. So when we looking at Jewish and Christian and Catholic and even Muslim does not denote a race of people. That's their religion. That's another misnomer. So we have to really break all this stuff down. Muslim is not a race of people. Islam is not a race of people. It's their doctrine, it's their religion. Just like Christianity, just like Judaism, just like Hinduism. You got Chinese Hindus. You got Hindus from India. Are they not different from their is that different from their nationality? Yes, it is. So Ashkenazi is a nationality. Khazarian is a nationality. Being Portuguese is a nationality. But Jew is their ethnicity that they use, that they drew from their religion. So as we continue to do this, as we continue to unravel all the things that we see before us, let us understand the lie. And let us start telling our truth. There's nothing wrong with us telling our truth. Don't be afraid. What does the word say? Be strong and of good courage and fear not. How many of us will take that challenge to be strong and of good courage and fear not? Or how many of us will still follow the path of least resistance? We see our brothers out there getting crucified, family. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? Ask yourself the question, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit back and let this continue? Because if you do, it's all in vain. If you do, you just as bad as the one that's crucifying them. You might as well be the person whooping Toby if you don't do nothing. Let me make that clear. You might as well be the person that's holding the whip that we saw in the video of Roots whooping your brother. You see our brother in the back, that he's instructing him to whoop him? That's you if you don't do nothing. That's you if you don't say nothing. That's you if you don't stand up. While our brothers and sisters are sitting there taking this abuse, and you still just watching and spectating, living in the comfortability of your own home, wonder why you still in captivity and complaining and debating. That's all you do. Now, I'm not talking to everybody, but the message is for who it fall upon. And whoever it fall upon, let it fall upon him wholly. I ask you this question. What would Harriet Tubman say to LeBron James, to Shaquille O'Neal, and Charles Barkley about what they said against Kyrie and Kanye? What would Emmett Till and his family say? What would Malcolm X say? What would they say, family? Ask yourself that question. What would they say? What did our ancestors die for? Harriet Tubman said she could have freed more slaves if only they knew they were slaves. That's a profound statement. And Harriet Tubman was bold. If she saw somebody that was, some of her people that was against the cause, she shot them. Let that sink in. What kind of attitude should we have against those that's coming against Kyrie and Kanye and the Nick Cannons and the Whoopi Goldbergs today? What kind of attitude should we have? We should be, at this present time, we have more people in the NBA than anybody else. It's no reason why every player, black player of our people, should walk away from it right now. If they did that, we'd get their attention. You wouldn't hear none of this stuff about them being anti-Semitic. They go, or about cutting contracts, because guess what? The NBA would be no more if we walked away. There was an image on Facebook, and it was mentioned earlier in the video. Sister Deja mentioned that Ice Cube had posted, and it was depicting a bunch of our brothers kneeling down with their backs level and a Monopoly board on their back. And there was a bunch of white people playing the game on their Monopoly board on their back. The question was, what if they stood up? My question to you today, family, to you, so-called African-American, black, or whatever you want to call yourself, my question to you, those that consider themselves conscious and know that they Israel, my question to you, what you gonna do? Are you gonna stand up? Or are you gonna sit back and let it continue? It's time for the Lion of Yahudah to stand up. Now I'm speaking directly to our people right now. Those that have been sold in the transatlantic slave trade throughout North, South, Central, and the Caribbean. We are either of Yahudah, Benjamin, and some of us may be of Levi, and those are 3 tribes in Israel. But those of us that are of Yahudah, it's time for you to stand up. And you're going to know Yahudah because Yahudah has a characteristic to stand and take no prisoners and follow the Almighty. Follow the Almighty like we did when we were in ancient Egypt, following the pillar of fire by night and a cloud of smoke by day. Who's ready to do that? We're going to know in a minute because the Almighty going to heat it up. We're going to see who stand for something and fall for any and everything. We're going to see who really trust the Almighty or trust in man. You know what? And I know I'm deviating a little bit, but what I see that really bothers me all the time, when I'm out there in the world driving around, I'll see our people with the windows rolled up. They in the car by themselves with a mask on. My question is, who are you protecting yourself against? Have you drank that much great Kool-Aid and believe in this system that much that you got the windows rolled up, you in the car by yourself, and you got a mask on your face? This is the same kind of mentality that we having when we go against our people. But I digress. Let me go back into what we were talking about. So let's get into ethnicity. There's a definition for ethnicity also. And that is the fact or state of belonging to a social group that has a common national or cultural tradition. Now, you can have a national and cultural tradition. National does deal with nation. The United States is a nation, but the United States is a melting pot of people. So the nationalism of the United States is convoluted. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying it's convoluted because it's mixed. It's a melting pot. But when you talk about the nationality or the physical lineage of a particular people, it's different. That's why you call African American, because your true nationality is the fact that you come from the continent of Africa. The American part is the nation that you live within, that control you, that owns you from the plantation. Now, that's different from if somebody is called a Chinese American or an Arab American. They came over here on their free will. We didn't come over here on our free will. You know, ask yourself this question. Have you ever seen an immigrant that has made the choice to come over here from Africa that wasn't a part of the transatlantic slave trade? Have you ever seen them typecast as an African American? Do they consider themselves African American? Y'all need to start asking yourselves these questions. What the heck is an African? How did we get that denotation as being an African American? Anyway, we're going to continue. Now we got to look at race. What is race? A race, a concept used to describe a group of people who share a physical characteristic, such as skin color and facial features. So it's being Shemitic is a race of people. We share that type of breakdown. Being of Yafat is the same thing. Being a Hamitic people is the same thing. But being Jewish is not the same thing. Even though you got a lot of different kinds of European who are white and they call themselves Jews. Heck, you even got our people that call themselves Jews. But the funny part about it, they say black Jews. So anytime you say you got black Jews, that means you got to have the opposite. That means that if it's a black Jew, if you got to make that distinction as a black Jew, then it must be a white Jew. And if it's a distinction between either, then it don't have nothing to do with race and people. It got everything to do with a belief structure. So there is also a comparison definition between race and ethnicity, and I like to read that too. Race and ethnicity are used to categorize sections of populations. Race refers to dividing people into groups. Again, oftentimes based on physical characteristics. That's what race is. That's a divide with physical characteristics. Ethnicity refers to the cultural expression and identification of a people of different geographical regions, including their customs, history, language, and religion. That's a definition. Should I be hated because I say that Jewish or being a Jew is based upon ethnicity and not race? Why is that hate? Is that a hate word? What's up? What's going on with that? And why are we afraid to say the truth? So it goes on to say too, nowhere in the definition of Semitism, Jewish, and or Jews does it indicate that such a group of people are the literal seed of Shem? And that was a side note that I made. Noah's oldest son. Neither in any of the definitions does it indicate that this group of people are literal descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. If you go look up Semitic, if you go look up Semitism, if you go look up Jew, if you go look up Jewish, by definition, you will not see in that definition that they are descendants of Shem, Abraham, which is Abraham, Isaac, which is Isaac, and Yaakov, which is Jacob, depending on how you want to pronounce it based upon your understanding of language. You don't see the breakdown, that physical lineage breakdown in their definition. So they're not lying about who they are to a degree, but there is some wordsmithing, there is some tactical genius by the stroke of a pen to give an illusion of something else. So in conclusion, Semitic is in reference to a people that speak the following language: Arabic, Hebrew, Aramaic, Phoenician, and Akkadian. That's what a Semitic people is by definition. So what is the true definition of anti-Semitic? You have to be against people that speak those 5 different languages in order to be anti-Semitic. Now we know when we look at the state of Israel and Palestine speak Arabic. We know the state of Israel, they speak in what they Yiddish or Ladona, whatever form of Hebrew that they call themselves speaking that they made up. But by definition, based upon these languages, both of them anti-Semitic. You don't see them both calling each other anti-Semitic, do you? You don't see that. Again, you've never seen anybody get called anti-Semitic because they were against somebody that spoke Arabic or Aramaic or Phoenician. You never seen that. How come being anti-Semitic is always based upon not speaking Hebrew? No, it ain't even about speaking Hebrew. Because many of us don't know Hebrew to be against somebody that do speak Hebrew. So we want to just pull this out so that we can pull down this well-dressed lie, so that we can raise the skirt on the lie and expose it so that truth can be set free. Now, let's go look at what they say anti-Semitism is by definition. But family, we read the definition of Semitism. So Semitism, again, is a grammatical, syntactical behavior. So by definition, anti-Semitism would have to be also against those that are against grammatical and syntactical behavior. But I mean, just by deriving from the definition of Semitism, what anti-Semitism is. But I'm gonna read the definition of what anti-Semitism is so that we can see what's going on to us. It says relating to the characteristic by anti-Semitism. Now it does mention anti-Semitism or Semitism, feeling or showing hostility toward or discrimination against Jews as a culture, race, or ethnic group. Now I threw all of that in there, that you discriminate against Jews as a culture, as a race, or as an ethnic group. Now, we read the definition of race. We saw that there are different kinds of different groups of race that practice Judaism. But by sharing definitions, by sharing the origin of people, by talking about history, how is that being against anybody? We got to wake up and see what's going on. So, so again, we have, you got, if just so you're aware, we have the definition of a Sephardic Jew in here as well. And I'm going to read that. It says, also known as Sephardic Jew or Sephardim, and sometimes referred to by modern scholars as Hispanic Jews. Now you got Hispanic Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, and Khazarian Jews. 3 different racial groups. Okay? And it says, are a Jewish diaspora population who coexist in the Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain and Portugal. What did we talk about earlier about who purchased the slaves from the Gold Coast, from West Africa? It was the Portuguese that did that. If you do your further research, you will see that Columbus was also Portuguese. Go and look and see if he was a Sephardic Jew. Go find out. The term Sephardism or Sephardim derived from, now check this out, they derive it from a Hebrew term called Sepharad, which means Spain. So even though they derive it from Hebrew, that term in Hebrew, what they call Hebrew, means Spain. What they trying to do here, family? Also refers to Mizrahi, Jews of Western Asia and North Africa, although the millennia long established later groups to not have ancestry from the Jewish communities of Iberia. The majority of them were influenced by the Sephardi style of language and law and custom from influence of the Andalusian schools. So again, this Sephardic Jew, we reading it, when you go pull back the onion, they don't have any relation to the people that we read about under the lineage of Shem on down to Yaakov or Jacob. Don't have nothing to do with that people whatsoever. The question is for you. Do you understand who you are? Do you know that you are descendants of Shem, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov? And if you don't, you need to go read and pay attention and look and see and find out who you are. Now, we're going to go and deal with the Ashkenazi Jew. There's a definition for that as well. It says, Jews of Germania, Yiddish, also known as Ashkenazic Jew or Ashkenazism, are a Jewish diaspora population in the Holy Roman Empire around the end of the first millennium. Their traditional diaspora language is Yiddish. And Yiddish is a West Germanic language with Jewish linguistics. Now, think about that. It says Jewish linguistics. But you got to realize what you're being told. If Jewish is a religion and it's not a real, and you got several different ethnic, cultural people that are Jewish. Why did they throw that term in there in a part of that definition? You also got to know who making up these definitions that we read. They wordsmithing these definitions greatly, okay? It says with Jewish linguistic elements, including the Hebrew alphabet, which developed during the Middle Ages, after they moved from Germany and France into Northern Europe and Eastern Europe. So they moved from Germany, France, and France into Northern Europe and Eastern Europe. Where we see any relation to them with our people on the continent of Africa or even in the Middle East, where you see that in the definition? They telling you right here. And all I'm doing is reading. So nobody should be mad at me that's of this particular persuasion and say I'm anti-Semitic because I'm reading definitions. If you don't want me to read them, don't put them out here. It says for centuries, Ashkenazism in Europe used Hebrew only as a sacred language until the revival of Hebrew as a common language in the 20th century of Israel. And the Hebrew they talking about is not the actual ancient Hebrew that the Almighty took from us. It's talking about Yiddish. Now, let's go look up Yiddish. It says Yiddish. Again, a Judeo-German language is a Western Germanic language historically spoken by Ashkenazi Jews. Now, if Jew by itself was a ethnic people, why you got to throw in front of it Ashkenazi Jew? Why you got to throw in front of it Sephardic Jew? Why you got to throw in front of it Khazarian Jew if it's by itself a race of people? That's another question that you got to deal with. It originated during the 9th century in Central Europe, providing the Ashkenazi community with a vernacular based on High German fused with many elements taken from Hebrew and to some extent Aramaic. Most varieties of Yiddish include elements of Slavic languages. Now, I want y'all to go do your research and look up Slavic also. Find out who are the Slavs and who are the Slavic people. As a matter of fact, I got a definition here for you for that. Yiddish is a Slavic language family with its German grammatical structure and the bulk of its vocabulary coming from German. Yiddish is classified as a Germanic tongue, but being a mixture of languages. Yiddish has several other tongues impacting its structure and vocabulary. The most important component being Hebrew and Slavic language. They're going to definitely throw Hebrew in there, but Slavic languages. Now, who are the Slavs or who are the Slavics? The Slavs are the largest European ethno-linguistic group. They speak various Slavic languages belonging to the large Balti-Slavic group of the Indo-European languages. Slavs are geographically distributed throughout northern Eurasia, mainly inhabiting Central and Eastern Europe and the Balkans to the west, and Siberia to the east. A large Slavic minority is also scattered across the Baltic state and Central Asia, while a substantial Slavic diaspora is found throughout the Americas as a result of immigration. Again, family, what is the definition telling you? They really ain't lying. They're not lying to you. They telling you who you are, who they are. They telling you where they come from, where they developed this language. The question is, are you gonna pay attention to what they're saying and then start to investigate who you are? Present-day Slavs are classified into East Slavs, chiefly the Belarusians and the Russians and the Russians and the Ukrainians. So this war with Russia and Ukraine lets you know that they the same people. Okay. West Slavs, chiefly Czechs, Kasabians, Poles, Slovaks, and Sorbs, and South Slavs, Bosniaks, Bulgarians, Croats, and Macedonians, and Montenegrians, and Serbs, and Slavinas. Those are all Slavs. Where we see anybody of African descent, of real descent of our people, of basically who we are today. Where we see that? We don't see it nowhere. So in conclusion, do the Slavic people, Semitic people, and or Jew or Jewish people have literal physical heritage to do with the descendants of Shem? The answer is no. They have no attributes of being Shem other than what they took from our culture. Along with those that descend from Shem, such as Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, they have taken from our people, but they have no connection to them. Let it be further noted that Yaakov was later changed to Israel, who had 12 sons, the 12 tribes of Israel, which I mentioned before. That's your family. That's who you are. That's who you should not be ashamed of coming out and saying who you are to the world. We can forget about what they talking about, who they are. We only went through this breakdown so that you can see and understand the historical differences and the definitions that we should see, so that we can have the right questions to ask when somebody say one of our people was anti-Semitic. That's the only reason why we went through this breakdown. More importantly, when we get into our later shows, we're going to get into the discussion of who we are and pulling that out. We will also pull into the fact of the historical references to prove that the Portuguese families that actually own those particular slave ships, and go into the corporations that they transcend into today to show you who owns those corporations. And then we'll see who anti-Shemitic. We'll truly see that. So let's start speaking our truth. Let's not be afraid. Let's support our people. And let's stand against those that stand against our people, even if it's our people that's standing against our people. It's time for Yahudah to stand, family. So in conclusion of our show tonight, we want to say to you, if you want to stand for your people, please stand with us. If you want to be united, please unite with us. Please go to www.yahwillgather.us. We are the United Nation of Israel. Our nation, your nation, one nation under the Most High Almighty Yah, our power and strength. And we need to do all that we can to stand on our truth, to be who Yah called us to be, the Most High called us to be today. We know that we have different religions and doctrines and all of that, and isms and schisms amongst our people too. But it's time to put that aside. We are in a time of a great awakening. We are in a time where the Almighty is calling us forward. So again, please go to our website, www.yahwillgather.us, and join in with the work that we're doing with our nation. Participate, be a constituent, and we're very careful with language on what we use in denoting our nation. So, you can't truly join our nation. You're born into our nation. It's time for you to take part with the nation that the Almighty made you from. You are the remnant seed of the nation of Israel. And those in particular in this hemisphere, you are Yahuda. That many of us are Yahuda or Benjamin, and some of us being Levi. But it's time for us to stand and lead from the front. And don't be afraid to do that. I'm ready. Are you ready? So join us, family. So in conclusion, continue to watch our shows, continue to go to our pages, continue to watch us on Facebook and social media, because we will be airing our truth. We are currently inviting to the table those that are Ashkenazi, those that are Khazar, those that are Sephardic Jew. We want to bring you on our show. And we hope you're listening right now. We want to bring you on our show, and we want to talk to you, and we want to ask the questions. We want you to defend your position while we ask you the questions. Because it's time to put all this stuff aside. We're not going to sit back any longer and let anybody destroy our people. We did that long enough. The Almighty's called us forward, and we're going to do what the Most High called us to do. With that being said, family, keep watching, keep viewing, and join in. And on behalf of the United Nation of Israel, I'd like to say peace, love, and shalom to you all. Hallelujah.
Shake the whole planet. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. Who are we, Hebrew planet? The bruise waking up, they can't stand it. Hit one more time, more damage. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. Who are we, Hebrew planet? Let the thing sink Titanic. Hit one more time, more damage. Open up the book, read the canons. Find us right there, transatlantic. The bruise waking up, they can't stand it. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. Who are we, Hebrew planet? About to take over the whole planet. Last one standing is Hebrew planet. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. The last one standing is Hebrew planet. The bruise waking up, they can't stand it. Just open up the planets, Hebrew planet.
Yeah, take over, the break over. This world got no swag, need a makeover. One way trip to hell, no layovers. They all drink from the cup, got a hangover. Yeah, yes, they lied, the truth won't hide. Our people lack knowledge, so they broke inside. Some really, the ops, they the other side. I pray the spirit got you and open up your eyes. We the witnesses, open your book and take a look. Yeah, them curses was really a sign, just take a look and listen. How they treat us, throw us in prison. Women, children go missing, our sons cry for attention. Swift incision in the back of the neck, aborting the young. Are we really this dumb, or are we really the ones in the book? Just open it up and give it a look. The Almighty ain't forsake us, it's him we forsook. We them zombies from the valley of bones. Y'all better lock up your homes, about to destroy all of your thrones. Bet they can't believe it, yeah we bet. We all over the news, give them heart attacks. Hit them one more time, they ain't coming back. Somebody go tell them, yeah the bruises back. Let the thing shake Titanic. Hit one more time, more damage. Open up the book, read the canons. Find us right there, transatlantic. The bruise waking up, they can't stand it. All over the planet, it's Hebrew planet. Y'all about to shake the whole planet. Yeah, who are we, Hebrew planet? Yeah, who are we, Hebrew planet? Yeah, who are we, Hebrew planet? Who are we, Hebrew planet?